seek the advice of town managers to help us in the selection process. That could also be instituted there as well. If
Yeah,
not,
you can put
if
it
not,
in,
I mean,
absolutely.
I understand, but the fact is that it's just, it's an opportunity, this is an opportunity for people to decide,
And they will.
and they will. And
And they will. It's kind of leave it at
like I
that.
said, and they will.
They will.
Nothing more.
We can still go out for coffee later, Bob. But they will.
Or some other stronger medicine.
I think, you know, one of the concerns previously was it showed up on a ballot alongside with your election for town administrator, our election for town administrator. There's a lot of confusion to the language that was involved with it. I think it's been tightened up quite well. There's a couple things I'd like to see added or deleted out of it, but you know what? I think the language is tightened up quite well. You know, you're right. I think no matter what, I mean, you know, I'm sure we've all said it at one time. You know, we want to do what's best for the community. We want to do what's in the best interest for the majority, not the minority. And the fact is, we let them decide. That, you know, go back to even the roundabout. I don't, you know, I can have my own feelings about it, but the residents want it or don't want it. That's ultimately what we're going to do. And it's the same thing with this. Either the residents want it or they don't, and we let them decide. Me, I like the language. I do like the fact that it takes us out of it until one of the final steps. I don't like that there's not a lot of good wording in there in relation to, I mean, there's some in relation to vacancy, but it's in regards to someone that's already been appointed that has to leave for whatever reason. There's nothing about, okay, where's that gap come? So it's not gonna be a 2-minute hiring process. I would assume it's gonna take quite some amount of time to where, you know, I'd like to see some language tightened up in there where if our administrator's term ends and we don't have a ready candidate, what's the language gonna look like in there in the interim? And stuff like that. But again, I think it's leaps and bounds from where it was before. And again, you know, it's up to the community ultimately. I like the idea of, if you had asked me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I probably would have said, no, let the voters decide. You know, the fact of the matter is, budgets are growing, you know, taxes, there's only so much you can get from a resident. You need someone there with business sense. I mean, you know, a high school diploma and driver's license is a good start, but doesn't necessarily mean you're qualified to run the town with a budget the way it is. But that's ultimately per the charter, it says I am. So, I mean, you know, that's all I'll go with on that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I like it the way it sits. I mean, like I said, could there be, again, it's very, it's to the point, it's pretty easy. And, you know, to Councilman Zawinski's concern, the one nice thing about some of our boards is, while, yeah, there are politics involved, what I would like to say is that some of these board members sit for a 5-year term. Some are appointed by members on the council, some weren't. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if it was someone from the previous sitting council, there's only 2 members here from the previous sitting council. So, I mean, there's some ways to offset it, but I do understand your concerns.
There's politics.
Exactly. There's again, no matter what we say, no matter how much we do, there's politics involved with every decision we make.
Except also too is that usually when a mayor would leave or the like, what would take place is that town council president would step in. And
I believe our charter and this both say a designee of the town administrator and subsequently with this, a town manager.
Correct, and that's why I said what I'd like to see tightened up a little bit is it says in the event of a vacancy for unforeseen, I forget exactly how it's worded, but it basically says that the first fallback is the town manager decides who the replacement is. Mm-hmm. And then there's no provision basically for that gap. If Administrator Hamilton's term ends in November, where's the provision for that gap? The new sitting council's gonna, you know what I mean? A new sitting council comes in the November election. If none of us are here, who makes that decision? Who's taking over for Administrator Hamilton? so, there's part of me that, I like the idea, and one of the other things we're gonna discuss too, and we're gonna have to discuss it sooner or later, is how many elections can we afford to have in 2016? Because that'll be 4.
Well, we got a presidential,
You got a presidential primary, a townwide primary, and a general election.
Not paid by the town.
What's that?
That's not paid by we don't pay for that when it's a federal or state election, do we?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We
can.
do? Oh, my God.
Don't get me wrong, I support it. I wonder if there's a way we can, are we gonna get voters out 4 times next year?
Last meeting, I asked if, and Madam Clerk clarified that we can't add anything to a primary ballot. But I did ask the solicitor if he could look and see if there's a way to hold an election concurrent with the primary.
Right.
So we could do this possibly in April.
That's what we discussed.
And I didn't get an answer, and
I didn't look it up yet, but I know.
okay.
like I said, I know we know the amount of time.
But you're talking about a ballot question at the same time as a primary.
And also too, we would also have to have other charter amendments, to rectify the,
Because the issue is you're gonna run into the same thing you ran into on the last election cycle, where
2 years
you're gonna have, or 2 years ago, right, where you're gonna have candidates filing their paperwork, you're gonna go through a primary process, and then residents aren't gonna know what's going on. Am I voting for an administrator today, or am I voting? That's my only concern with if we dumped into the general election. But on the same token, if we have a 4th election in one single year, are we gonna get the voters out to that 4th election? There was just over 800 for my election. Are we gonna get the majority of the residents? That's the only concern. I like it. That's the only concern I have with it, is how we can fit this timing in appropriately.
I agree, we need as many residents as we possibly can to come out and voice their opinion for this, 100% agree.
I agree, but the problem with the primary is someone has to come out if they're non-affiliated, and then they have to declare they want to come out, they want to vote either for Republican or Democrat, then they have to disaffiliate themselves. We'd have to look at the primary turns out to see if enough people actually come out. Someone's gonna, I'm kind of an independent, I vote the issue and the person, so.
Yeah.
Coming out in the primary always kind of shackles me a little. It's like, I'm going to tell them this or I'm that when I'm really not. I just like the person. So if you put it in a primary, I think you may not have the full turnout of the people. That's just me.
The reason why is that I was hoping to do this before the,
Yeah, November, yeah.
no, but during the process of elections, you have to, declaration of candidacy papers have to be taken out. So therefore, whether you're running for council or town administrator or school committee, those papers have to be taken out. If you want to stop the flow of that town administrator slot, this would have to be beforehand. This way you would know if it was going to be an election or not. If the people voted it down, fine, then you have a town administrator candidate. That's my rationale behind it. Otherwise than that, you put it on the ballot, and if you want to change it, let's say 2018, to go to a town manager, have your last election, whoever gets elected, the person's there for 2 years, there'll be a lame duck, and what are you going to get? That's the quid pro quo.
I have no
of this.
problem putting it on the ballot. Honestly, I welcome that, but I think we need to sit down and tighten up. We may want to change some of the verbiage in here before we go forward. Then it has to be vetted by the solicitor, then by the state's going to have to take a look at all the language. And so can we continue it to the next meeting? And if we have ideas what we want to change, or if we accept it, but I am not going to say, no, I don't want to put this out for, I'll put it out for the vote. Timing has to be right. We have to have as many people in town. Question becomes primaries, is that the right time? Or do we bite the bullet, pay $7 grand and have a special election for that or what?
And we need 2 public hearings on this.
That's
Yeah,
the issue.
we still have that both ways, so.
So,
We've already scheduled one for December
Yeah,
7th.
there's a public hearing for December 7th.
So,
As it's written this way, I do believe.
It doesn't matter how it's written, the public hearing is just for purposes.
Right, and we can make
You
amendments
can
to
make
it.
any amendments you want.
and we actually don't even have to say anything. We
Right.
just
As
take
long as
into
you don't, as
consideration
long
what
as you
people
don't
say.
hold the public hearing, you can
Right.
make amendments.
Right, so,
You need, you need a motion to extend.
What do we have left on the agenda?
I need to do my own thing, which is,
The motion for 15?
I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting, I don't want to run another 15 minutes, so 10 more minutes
We'll do
still.
15 if we don't, we don't.
Okay,
Just to cover it, right?
until 10:30, that's another 15 minutes from now. I have one item that I want to go over, and if we're done early, we're done early.
Chair seconds.
Also, will we, Madam Clerk, roll call, vote, please?
Ms. Alves? Yes. Mrs. Nato?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Bowden?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so item G, discussion by council vote or other action on school municipal bonds, including stage 1 and stage 2 applications. Going back to, once again, the question that I asked of certain duties of the town administrator, there is 2 items that I might need to bring up as resolutions, we might have to vote on it that way, to give the PBIC the authority to establish a draw schedule and the authority to approve schematic drawings from the architect. If we wait for council approval on everything that we do, we're totally blowing
Yep.
our timeline. We have to promise with the architect, and we went through some of the dates with the architect, that we have a week's turnaround. And if we, with stage 1, how long, with the stage 1 application that was submitted, by the way,
The last hour.
within, yeah,
Right?
at the
Very last
absolute
hour.
last hour. Now, the town administrator was rightfully nervous of signing stage 1 without town council approval because of everything else that we make her go through before we allow her to sign anything. And she did sign it with a caveat, with town council approval, so we do need to discuss stage 1 and what it really meant. It was non-binding, it was non-monetary. It had to be signed, and it had to be signed immediately before we could meet tonight. We couldn't call a special meeting, there wasn't any time. But from the point that stage 1 was complete to the point that it had to be submitted. So school committee voted on it and voted favorably, PBIC voted on it, voted favorably, actually the night before, the school committee voted on it. So we need to relinquish a little bit of the control to PBIC, and I'm only asking to approve the draw schedule, not the draws themselves, and approve schematic drawings with the architects. I'm asking for it at this time, and that is not to say that anything wouldn't ever come before the town council. I will bring everything before the town council. In fact, everything, or all documentation PBIC related, which is Public Buildings Improvement Commission, is available on my Google Drive. And it is an open Google Drive with a link on our agendas, which are posted on the RISOS site. So we could not be more transparent if you have a computer. If you don't, you have to come to the meetings and listen to what we talk about, which is mostly joking around. So I need to ask for approval on PBIC to approve the draw schedule, PBIC to approve schematic drawings, so we can sign off on those to keep our timeline going for municipal buildings. We're not going to talk about school buildings yet because we don't have scope for school buildings. So right now, I'm only going to ask for municipal buildings, not school buildings at this point in time.
Councilwoman Nato, would it be best to ask for a school at this time in the event that you run into a timeline crunch when it comes down to that as well? If it's not monetary, right, it's not monetary, would it be best just to get that out of the way so we don't run into a timeline crunch with the schools as well? If it is, as long as it's not monetary, I mean, we gotta get these bonds going.
Okay, I absolutely agree. I was just removing school, so I would definitely get the support tonight.
No, I understand, but the fact of the matter is, red tape holds up too much, and I mean, just, why, if we miss a deadline because we don't have a meeting,
Absolutely.
I mean, come on, especially with these 2 bonds, because time is,
Of the essence.
we're being
Yeah,
crunched, I
absolutely
mean,
of the essence.
for both of them. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd support that if you make that motion. I mean, like I said, I don't want a timeline because we don't have a meeting or snow comes or whatever, and now all of a sudden we're handcuffed. I mean,
Can we vote on this tonight, or do I have to write it up as a resolution?
No, you can, run on- that, you can, that is a resolution, if you, that's, the clerk will make those notes.
Okay, great.
So I have a question. When we say non-monetary, if you're going to have the PBIC have the ability to ask for schematic drawings, there's a cost involved with that with Studio Nature. So are we not committing them? When you say non-monetary, after the fact, the bill for those schematics will come to the town council for approval of payment.
Correct.
Okay, so it is monetary.
Well, it's already in the contract.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, we delineate that. So I'm going to support that. I kind of like what Council Solly said, if we want to expand it to the school committee, excuse me, the school building, the school improvement bond, absolutely.
Okay, so moved.
No, that was your motion. No, you have to make the motion, this is your.
I'm trying not to have to reword everything, okay. The PBIC formally requests that the town council authorize approval of the draw schedule and the approval of schematic drawings, which are already part of the contract with our architect, Studio Major, for the town and the school bond work.
Yeah.
That's what I should,
Chair seconds.
The motion was to authorize PBIC, right?
yes,
I didn't know if you said that. Authorize PBIC to approve that?
yes.
Motion by Councilman Nato, second by the chair. Roll. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Alves? Yes. Mrs. Nato?
Yes.
Mr. Soli?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Boucher?
Yes.
Did we cover everything now except for
everything
appointments?
except executive session, correct?
Right, executive session.
Oh, and the boards. Are there any appointments for the boards?
Town Administrator, Hamlin? I'm sorry.
We're just, I'm sorry, I need to interrupt you, but the solicitor just brought up a point. The application that was provided to RIDE with my signature that said subject to.
Town council, right, which is why I said we still have to talk about that.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
They were moving on.
That-
I don't know if, you didn't print out all of that, did you?
Oh, I
Yes.
certainly did.
Oh, you did, okay.
Oh.
So then I'm going to assume that everybody else has read it because I've had it.
Yes.
I was hoping that you gave them the link.
I asked you.
And I said, if they just will use a computer.
It wasn't bad until I opened it up and it was two-sided.
Saving trees.
I was going to try to get an abridged version, but I figured that, no, you need the original, but I just wanted to give it to you with a link.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't look at every picture.
I would hope not. And
It's not, it's non-bonding,
it
binding,
is,
correct?
it is
Right.
non-binding, it is changeable, and we do plan on making changes. We're going to update it with different enrollment numbers from NESDEC. This is going to be a fluid document and a fluid process. So what was submitted to RIDE is not the end-all be-all of stage one. There are going to be changes, and all it does is open the door for us to start having communications with RIDE. So, motion to approve the stage one application previously submitted to RIDE.
As explained as non-binding.
As explained as non-binding and non-monetary,
Such motion?
with authorization for town administrator to have signed it.
To have signed it.
Motion by Councilman Nato, second by the chair. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Alves? Yes. Mrs. Nato?
Yes.
Mr. Soli?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Boucher?
Yes.
Did we complete this except for executive
I
session?
just want to check are there any appointments to the, any
No.
boards and commissions,
I have not, at this point.
Town Administrator for the Parks and Recreation?
No.
No? Okay.
I said she said no, because she was inside.
Yeah.
She didn't truly say
Is
no.
is anyone?
Did you have any appointment to the Parks and Rec?
Parks and Recs?
No, see, I was correct, no.
All right, fine.
It's a joke with the plane.
Now it's left as the executive session.
Ah,